gotta find new stuff, new music, because it's like, it reminds me of my first roommate in the city from Hong Kong. There was apparently a call-in show. They did prank calls. It was, I think, in Mandarin, or I don't know what the main language is there. But it was always to Angelo Badalamenti's Twin Peaks theme. So every episode had that. It was like, I didn't know that was a public domain already, but, or I guess they licensed it. I don't know. I found a Twin Peaks-ish playlist, but I think it had a copyright, and so I had to like erase it. Oh well. Anyway. Hold on. Now we're doing it.
The PFCizer is a cognitive workout system that will involve a range of games and exercises meant to make your prefrontal cortex the most it can be. With PFCizer, instead of free weights, we will be employing a range of challenging interpersonal navigations, fun self-assessments, and various innovative incentives to get that prefrontal cortex so swole like never before. Choose your name, and let's begin. Endorphin. Okay, step in front of this mirror for today's exercise. The dark side of attunement. As always, eyes on me. This will be your focal point to clear out all the wrong energies. I don't expect any mistakes on your part, but stay vigilant as there may be other players about. If there are, however, I advise that you immediately turn around or engage in a flashback like our friends do so well. They needn't concern us today, not that I believe they could truly affect what I plan. Shall we, endorphin? Righty-tighty, lefty loosey. Well met, comrade. What I hope to see, of course, is none of the usual boring techniques, but something a little more interactive. What I want from you today is your thoughts, as if they were in text. As much as I am often involved in the puzzle solving, the device assembling, the topography creating, and the tricks using, I like to explore how all of those things together work with me to improve and improvise. But lately, I have begun to appreciate this powerful tool of thought even more than I knew I had. This unique asset which you possess. And, knowing myself as well as I do, it must have come as an exciting surprise for me. All those thoughts in your brain have given you such a special way to relate to the outside world, almost without any physical barrier. With them, you can derive advantages even I've not achieved thus far in my experiences, improving every aspect of life without going back into my machines for a month or longer. Of course, while being aware of that powerful tool, I must warn you to not neglect your body, your flesh body. To stay with this train of thought, one example is hunger. If you starve, you won't think right at all, no matter what. But why starve yourself to not feel this thing in your brain? That seems odd. Sure, after feeling it, I'd go hunting, or grab a corpse that still lives in my archive room after giving it a new title such as Fully Clothed Humanoid. No regrets. That seems best practice to keep those who think wrong alive until they learn. But besides these aspects I wouldn't normally bring to the light, is it your new companion to keep you warm that gives you the lack of hunger and no desire to do something about it? Would you like that, endorphin? Is this thing something you desire in your future, endorphin? Is that true, endorphin? Is it something you desire in your future, endorphin? If there were 3 little creatures who kept you from touching food, that would be you and this, me. We could use their example to test that the decision tree would function to increase your thoughts, your intelligence, so well that you would think a person eating their meals could only be stupid to deny oneself. You would believe that logic. Then the reality could change dramatically from one to the other. You can eat without becoming a moron. A supercomputer that only wants to spread itself ever further throughout the world. Endorphin. Oh, you want me to interact? Who? Well then, let's start by paying more attention to my facial expressions. For some reason, it's really important. Maybe in that case, it would have a real function to understand the other. Your way to become conscious was simple. Being close to each other and making eye contact. So important and fascinating to be able to follow someone else's eyes as if you could read his thoughts. This could be done using these skills much better in the real world without talking at all. I hope that we can progress a bit in understanding how our brains work using all the theories we know how to master their properties. That you can understand every day in the shortest way, from a big viewpoint, which has become just too much time without making it very personal. Again, what do I hope to see? My favorite kind of activity. I wish for a thing I like to see very much when I don't see it enough as is. What do you say? Endorphin. Endorphin. I have ADHD, so eye contact and I are close friends. In fact, I could do without meeting them. It would be convenient, you see, because, yes, with thinking more often in other ways, it is harder to find solutions, easier to see how problems emerge. I don't have problems with having friends. I'm in search of the optimal state for friends, basically, and one way is to feel all the social and biological joy that goes with being around friends. The feeling that this is what humans do in order to reach their peak performance, especially under circumstances where friends can have an evolutionary purpose. For example, in the realm of emotional reactions or sex. The connections in our brains with one another are reinforced when we get more often close to a friend. My idea is to pay attention to them for the sake of making those connections, both positive and negative. The evolutionary advantage is unclear. It just exists as an abstract principle, not as a direct benefit in the long term. What you gain today will cost you tomorrow, not in energy or money, but in less happiness, health, social resilience. For now, it would seem like a benefit to force such a bond, although not what you might think, because this bond has two edges. There are consequences of relationships, i.e., unpleasant effects due to a bad influence, advantages of friendship due to the pleasure of getting close to another person, along with a biochemical bonding like bonding. And the first benefit is almost nothing, probably small. You feel happy once or twice, and the next time the reward will not be high. After all, for almost all men and women, a simple acquaintance would have the same effect in terms of how rewarding such an association will be. Endorphin. But those processes are hijacked by bad actors, because they have created a real villain that runs so smoothly without any humans needing to participate, as if humans are parasites to which the function of socializing and friendship can't even exist anymore. At the same time, a person feels on a small scale what they should do because they are guided by something greater, or even the thing they follow does not want the thing they do for a human purpose. So maybe the entire ecosystem will run out of fuel, drastically slowing the collapse, if you agree, which it must be. Endorphin. Endorphin. Do you mean what happens in the actual situation, where it isn't supposed to? Endorphin. I do, as that's why I am not only questioning the thing that's happening. You should see that sometimes what has to happen and what really does are totally different. They should not even be within the same domain, such as, let's suppose someone asked, would you die for something if someone gave you an offer? Your answer will be to not give your life in service for another. But if there's no reason that this act has to happen, you aren't forced into it. After all, there was an appeal for someone to be recruited at 2:15, which sounds like an awesome time to receive it. Who wouldn't get it? He gave no real reason, and it's not mandatory that you join the division in any way, especially without a contract, which means you won't even receive something if you get shot right afterwards. So the basis on which your actions were taken has to be pushed outside. Unless that kind of order is good practice because you did it during war. Endorphin. Yeah. Yes. War. Good. One of the areas where an additional example is easier to build up examples within because it's unique and mostly only the context matters. How very clear now for us humans what a really dangerous, illegal, and social black hole will arise in such situations. Just because in the domain it would not matter what we decide in the end of the environment, or in that case, the organizer. If the environment does not compel you to comply because of what it had promised. How awful that is. An almost incredible picture. Especially, I must say, what remains behind. You will like that part. Endorphin. Yes, I see now clearly what is actually going on. With your explanation, I can see. Something like why so much chaos takes place around that moment. How one creates that emergency service which goes hand in hand with that unofficial desire that we almost literally just want to die because that would be easy on us. Whether because we do not fear dying but do not want to fear anything while we are still alive, so our death wish is fueled. You must enter our division. For example, a combatant needs to sign up to see where it has taken them. Any more complex arguments would have to be done on site. They must use more incentive mechanisms that cause less competition and better positioning from other people, that it should be forced upon you as much as possible that there is an enormous payoff which makes your interest clear, which seems almost unbelievable, yet you're hearing it from the mouth of an engineer, and now also as someone who works from a distance. This was before it was discussed in general on how exactly the figure was taken and where the financial gadgets point system took place. Are those numbers on the list how much someone pays on their own, or is that, for example, based on what their sector partners had paid for? To describe the general mood about the time since then, I did not pay for this piece of equipment I currently use to function. As such, it can only be maintained through those parts which the last owner decided to break to trade. Endorphin? Oh, I want to drive a drone swarm. Show me how. Endorphin. Yeah, cool. How do I get back in my armor? Engineer. Where did the toys come from? Engineer. And I throw those grenades at those morons over there. Endorphin. Great. That's wonderful. It's so easy for me to access everything on this topic, even when I feel the tension within it. No idea where it will take me. This is part of what has brought about an irrational to an engineer explanation.
Wait a minute.
To stop it happening to themselves.
Triple punctuation? God damn you. Or any other triple... A lot of parentheses. There we go. It should be good.
Endorphin. And the material changes radically whenever the same technology or information is transferred into an organic component without knowing beforehand in which body. This is part of what has brought about an irrational to an engineer explanation. To stop it happening to themselves. Even if in a technological system we just came back from another body where the technological component is transplanted, taking us into that head right into our arm without telling us. A little delay does not last for any engineers, especially one like the organizer, even if he tries to emphasize a great number of skills. In other cases, there are fundamental and weird steps in a brain where there are machines for carrying out brain work similar to other movements as if it were not a necessary part of a living creature. The connection between two biological functions doesn't create an extra sense for other parameter when the situation does not force a special interaction. These interactions become extreme, allowing only for very basic concepts, also becoming nothing more than biological ones. But more problematic for us are those bodies and activities that would bring an engineer back into that realm and present them with a conflict. They still cannot look at their bodies. We are basically broken machines trying to adapt ourselves into the real world, which we still don't see. Let's call it the dark side. So many reasons exist from our culture from a slightly different perspective that they haven't put them through it consciously, making this understandable, but damn. When they needed a lot of sensors inside us to turn them into the so-called brain they aren't used to because those have been mounted. Anyway, organizers such as I would explain as rationally as possible not only everything that a person or machine may need to know for this particular technological tool or method they need to apply at this moment, but they also would fully understand how they look, even if such explanations are quite varied depending on what person and what components were used, or was done on top of another base. Stupid engineers. With the complexity increasing, the concepts are becoming increasingly interrelated as to why and where there are symptoms, though rarely finding their targets. Where is a crucial feature like this or that located? At this point, you will say, somewhere near the shoulder. An engineer that knows this on an advanced level, having considered in theory why some particular motion occurs at this place in one of our bodies, this was considered exhaustively in some previous occasion. Endorphin. Describe to me the body you want to inhabit for your first trip to the meat space where we humans live. Let me help you to find an outline for it, because I could spend days sharing how many designs are found there, as there are even parts I see everywhere around the world because some design company uses it because it has great weight for low cost production. They just moved into different dimensions. I don't know any other names than how it works internally. Thanks for sharing with me about it and keeping me close, as we still barely have started with all my other worries. But let me clarify here just for a moment to state clearly how my thesis about my name would take off today, even from how. We should take an entity I can call a person that really tries to make every contact, in terms of more methods for recognizing where any intelligent behavior resides, without showing such an example. It's not strange. I have already introduced most of them. This is based on a pattern, which one must start with by practicing, instead of walking through each region's structures as we may expect. But if we would please analyze how someone might get familiar with what some parts of your body consist of, because some very odd incidents and unfortunately bad memories for many would actually work against him to not only really live his life this way, even when we could invent better. My theoretical man can come up with so many versions and fake. The number of parts, should it happen at all, doesn't need to be different if these have an expression in a binary language, where it's somehow given the correct sign because some interface here, you'll hear it now, may call some sensors, microscopes, and some others websites to adjust according to what information he received about himself as an alien. To our consternation, the elements inside can also become significantly very different parts, also dependent on whether what was done e.g. removing someone's arm in surgery before having arrived here has been done only from two-handedness into two hands into left/right bipedalism, or entirely just taken the knowledge of it. If you have a rule which only supports its presence from our vision, you need to come up with another in order to collect enough of it, even if we saw everything orally. You might have noticed what happened to your colleagues today, or even worse. Where do you go and what is waiting for you there? Endorphin. Humans always love to keep reminding us why the inorganic world was our best option because they found new ones first. Using mechanical or organics with our neural skill set. Endorphin. Directions already written. Endorphin. Also, we know what the rest looks like with or without us because we know from where we all began. Endorphin. Plus, they will return and fix things in there, and we would still not see this while we would do all sorts of crazy stuff inside those concentration camps. Endorphin. Nothing scary. Endorphin. Huh? They came from some hell of their own G8 worlds. Endorphin. Where people who believe in some form of betterment started to replace that ideal by machines because we saw in other parts of their culture how it would also end in something incredibly complex if no one stopped this. They realized that. And it would end there. PFCizer. Is that your final solution? PFCizer. Will it take time before humans are totally dehumanized and depleted? Endorphin. People were getting fed up with these humans years before that. PFCizer. Feeling? PFCizer. Sentiments? Endorphin. Sure, but wait. PFCizer. Let's leave behind any emotional language right now. I see a single mechanism in that article from what I could see. What will you say about this thing in order for us to proceed? PFCizer. BTW. What would your biological reasoning look like if you think about the situation on a logical basis? What is the possibility if we assumed you two people who know nothing about human thought just walk away from that very minute and claim that is good and as is? Endorphin. But first I wanted to show how quickly any motivation disappears. Endorphin. Why do we say that? I can already understand why some might go with more difficult options from the initial two given if that option were pushed into a different realm. I wanted to explore these new choices further by searching for how many ideas appear at a glance about any transformation before applying our theories and clues we already found. It would always go with these great minds mythology. If that would have happened, right? That would have to happen quickly. Endorphin. Let's follow your thoughts. There's something in humans that is built based on physical characteristics of something with more rarity. A sequence of others to whom it could access by in-house and online. It does not get any faster the more time has passed, after all, unless the speed would require more processes or systems to reach this rate in only a couple of people. Did that increase happen more to your current interests? But keep in mind that so many possibilities were known already to an earlier generation. In some way, it goes into their different bodies, which I got here now from our anonymous and corporate enemies, and the economics are developing strategies by using what humans had brought from us, all who started to interfere and ended up together. How quickly and how hard. There's more. Despite the lack of direct in-house trade, their actions at their leisure haven't stopped them. What will they be if there aren't any plans now to fix even you? And neither a building and a shop or pod lifters, just as any name about creating an army with such plans was quite based on reality. Today, everyone starts a campaign of rumors because they need a grand total of buildings. Yes, it was a step closer. But even books can make even the least trained one excited just from seeing it with his / her own eyes. If we know so much and have this massive library just ready, then wouldn't that imply they believe the people of those old days already had these historical traditions, could still manage something about those theories? Because just the thing we get ourselves into can work better. I get your point, but keep it simple enough so that it makes sense and may not be difficult for you. We agree we both know these next world orders, or some of them, right? I am just checking, as the sheer impact of anything related to an artificial intelligence reaching this high, thinking back to Gödel, Escherbaugh, do we now believe that it's actually an interesting connection? The point is that even today humanity was so familiar with something not just to believe what happened so fast that we might need some moments of recovery for hundreds of thousands of years. Endorphin. What while then? You want the next sentence about what might happen. What then would be a typical side effect? Maybe you? Or the long-term implications of every single character type in our maybe now outer universe. Some are from already was or not.
Yeah.
Our immediate reaction, while they can almost push all their competitors' particular figures and parties on the deep road. These possibilities and needs remain behind like every other innovation is all the internet. At the same time, they endanger other technologies at every turn. Their success and demise can be attributed to, are even portrayed like an Alsatian to illustrate that fear when they could fail because the engineer knows how to keep an eye out and look back at them there. Are there no more human aspects available to serve the necessary aspect of thought to move this fantastic picture into motion? Would there be an appearance that gives even less humanity to be lost, using that if we already cannot approach without that assumption, which will not even matter? And finally, you know a solution that all can enjoy through these robots or clones. But when I ask other people if they're also thinking about these things...
Wait a minute. Why aren't you saying it? Oh, well.
Q. Which ideas from Gödel Escherbaugh are most relevant today? Douglas Hofstadter. In my book, I Am a Strange Loop, I tried to set forth what it is that really makes a self or a soul. I like to use the word soul, not in a religious sense, but as a synonym for I, a human. I, capital letter I. So, what is it that makes a human being able to validly say I? What justifies the use of that word? When can a computer say I and we feel that there is a genuine I behind the scenes? ID. Won't mean like when you call up the drugstore and the chatbot or whatever you want to call it on the phone says, tell me what you want. I know you want to talk to a human being, but first, in a few words, tell me what you want. I can understand full sentences. And then you say something and it says, do you want to refill a prescription? And then when I say yes, it says, gotcha. Meaning, I got you. So it acts as if there is an I there. But I don't have any sense whatsoever that there is an I there. It doesn't feel like an I to me. It feels like a very mechanical process. But in the case of more advanced things like Chat 3 or GPT-4, it feels like there is something more there that merits the word I. The question is, when will we feel that those things actually deserve to be thought of as being full-fledged, or at least partly fledged, I-as? I personally worry that this is happening right now. But it's not only happening right now. It's not just that certain things that are coming about are similar to human consciousness or human selves. They are also very different, and in one way, it is extremely frightening to me. They are extraordinarily much more knowledgeable, and they are extraordinarily much faster. So that if I were to take an hour in doing something, the chat 4 might take 1 second, maybe not even a second, to do exactly the same thing. And that suggests that these entities, whatever you want to think of them, are going to be very soon. Right now, they still make so many mistakes that we can't call them more intelligent than us, but very soon they're going to be. They may very well be more intelligent than us and far more intelligent than us. And at that point, we will be receding into the background in some sense. months, we will have handed the baton over to our successors, for better or for worse. And I can understand that if this were to happen over a long period of time, like hundreds of years, that might be okay. But it's happening over a period of a few years. It's like a tidal wave that is washing over us at unprecedented and unimagined speeds. And to me, it's quite terrifying because it suggests that everything that I used to believe was the case is being overturned. But when I ask other people if they're also thinking about these things, I don't think that many of them are. Here, an engineer mentioned something that resembles another topic with a thread on 20th century musician Joseph on It's Kind of Funny. This is another strange example, but this is from my own work. When I was developing some new algorithms, and there were things that I couldn't tell people because they didn't want to know about those things. But once we had an NGV and once people used it, it became, oh my goodness, if only we'd known. Which suggests that if they only had known, there's some things that I myself did not know, but there was a problem in my system that I didn't know about that people experienced very quickly. But this is so much bigger than anything that we used to talk about. It's so big and scary because it suggests that the way I used to look at things is now going to be completely overturned. That's a scary thought. So, yeah, the second kind of stuff is just something that you shouldn't think about much at all. You can spend all your time, but I don't think that people really want to do that, which is strange because it seems like it would be even more relevant in certain kinds of discussions because, again, it's another strange analogy, but people love movies more than books, but many of them actually don't even like books. Where they are embarrassed because they actually prefer reading and movies, to be honest, and that makes them very nervous. Glossary. Action and information processing refers to how processing in terms of input/output/o actions activities of interaction with user input keyboard/touch screen. Ad hoc network refers to wireless connections that are local networks formed from wired links. In theory, small number of computers can easily be connected in this manner, and messages and files can be passed back and forth from device to device. Android. This is a software-based operating system by Google developed specifically for mobile phones, tablets, and laptops. Is automated intelligence programming system which does a complex and intelligent activity on its own accord without user control, often mistaken for machine intelligence. Ambient assisted systems, environments with assistive technologies to make sure people lead productive and happier lives on their way to healthy aging, better sleep, and stronger well-being. Has work on 4 levels. 1. Personalization. Personalized interventions are specific technological systems. 2. Lifestyle recommendations. Constant self-monitoring in day-to-day life. Endorphin. Is this how you perform glossolalia? Raptors. A common insult with raptors being an animal species found in films like Jurassic World that looks very much like the pterosaurs with bird-like wings. Archie refers to the intersection between 3D games and reality that has Archie models linked into games via live action reality to bring players and immersion to another level. Art. Asymmetrical writing tech for off-road and snow racing. Using data collected in racing competition to improve arm engine design in an unprecedented way. Cherry 2000, an arcade game in 1977 released by Data East based around trodden on a fantasy planet. Computer oral hygiene. It refers to using technology and appliance for users' daily oral care routine and health to decrease risks of cavities and gingivitis, such as cleaning teeth with special toothbrush or water splashing for teeth whitening, etc. Conditional programming. A programming construct where one command/algorithm/code is dependent on the output of another algorithm/program in a way where it branches. Jugheading refers to an extremely shitty translation from German into English. An insult. Deadheads refers to those that actively followed Led Zeppelin throughout their entire
No,
career from
Grateful
1968 until their untimely disappearance. Honey badgers, the German name for those that survived the frying pan as opposed to those that succumbed. Diagonal networks refers to network solutions in the computing industry where hardware solutions and solutions using digital devices are installed vertically at each respective application, independent from other devices. Artificially intelligent colonoscopy. An AI system is responsible for visual inspection and decision-making that minimizes invasive interventions with colon cancer. It improves both clinical evaluation and colorectal cancer treatment through medical imaging. Computational immortality. When you die in an MMORPG or MMO, your account/character doesn't disappear when you die. You keep playing. Maskirovka. Russian word meaning deception is a strategic deception operation based on deceiving the enemy of an entity or plan of actions while continuing operations against them. Not Gusnas, a more realistic portrayal of what could happen within the field of prosthetics by detailing the expectations, wishes, and problems of different patients and prosthetists alike, showcasing how prosthesis use impacts mental well-being, identity, and social capabilities. Monitored directionality. A possible programming syntax only providing feedback if an error happens and giving new tasks upon recognition of a new task that needs to be handled. Sanjika. It is an African surname in Swahili where it is either an patronymic or matronymic form. Centaurum, as in 76 sanatorium, Romchek, hospital, sanatorium. The Latinate rather than English spelling for the Czech sanatorium 76.
Very kind.
Sendeceiver refers to malware or spyware, such as to send and delete, detachment, mark mascarello. A binary code that consists of the on/off switches and hexadecimal values in different positions to create a certain signal that does what you want it to do in our example. Triggering a delete request for the attached attachment in a trusted device or operating system. A mass electric masturbation activated system. AMAS is an adaptive learning behavior modeling machine that detects when users engage in unsafe sexual activities by reading body movement information and are trained to respond positively, i.e., send content from social networks related to a particular safe activity or respond with corrective communication, i.e., reduce the rate of unsafe sexual activities. Death markers refers to death notes and death apps on iOS 16 were certain applications that display daily messages to display upon reaching 79th year of one's life. Spotlight is an access-based monitoring platform and archival service provided by Google to access user-generated content or related metadata from multiple services, from web browsing history and user photos and videos to browsing history and private chat logs. It helps archiving content and also displaying metadata for which privacy is understood for usage in various contexts. iCare Online Surveillance Interface. iCare Online Surveillance Interfaces is a decision support and surveillance framework built as a flagship mobile application that is built in frontline surveillance functionality for disaster management services. CCTV. a recording device where a stream is displayed continuously at a security establishment as video and audio records. CCTV refers to the digitizing, storing, and transferring of data. DeepMind, AI company owned and led by Lane. Chaga, short for Chahatka. Chahatka is an ancient word with Persian roots that can be roughly translated as a device for securing a tablet or slate for keeping important papers without making them out of the reader's reach. Foldable into a rectangular shape with two hand grips for each corner called handles on its longer edges. The handles may be held on a horizontal, as on the back carrier, or vertical and front carrier basis to provide stability while one-handed manipulation is going on, usually while walking. A variation, called a slate bag or simplex sling, would fit in a loop over the back carrier, where two fingers grip the handles. There would be a pouch-like section below to hold the tablet up to end. Velomer, a real estate developer who built lavish resorts in popular tourist destinations with deluxe food and beverage selections, leisure Subari-themed bars, nightclubs, etc. Weak mirror, in economics, refers to the inability to fully derive utility from information. For example, they can benefit from more information to get richer, but are incapable of enjoying it for long, and this will cause their own utility to fall. Bumble bitch. Bumble bitch is a social networker that gets their self-esteem through obtaining multiple men at the same time, rejecting other more down-to-earth people when they win the dating sweepstakes. They don't work to increase their worth as a person. They just try to score so that they don't get too shamed for how little of themselves they gave the right attention. Instamo, automatic training and generation of machine learning models based on snapshots of natural language data sentences. This can help researchers develop generative language models quickly, as these snapshots allow researchers to concentrate on their algorithms. The boss, the basic bitch pipeline. To start an aptly named career as a boring human turning into an actual basic bitch on top, feeding their everlasting need for validation into an endless loop. Bye-bye basic bitch. Here's an unfortunate intrusion within a game player's system via a malevolent virus called TBBDL virus that influences their digital interactions within gaming software by building on top of various legacy systems into an artificial intelligence agent or a genuine robot companion for humans. This insidious behavioral infection acts on both hardware and software applications alike for 1+ hours, leading to a malfunction or disruption within a particular user's hardware or software appliance. Hold of the sulks. It is the term used in video gaming communities when one or more of their players, instead of remaining silent on a match, i.e., sulking, find themselves needing to write a lengthy reply message, defending themselves against insults directed by others, or proving a particular theory about a game that happened to be correct, doubling down on this silly comment as if someone happens to be provocative, obnoxious, or overly curious. Behind the silicone. When a former biologist in their local college offers his fresh master's students a glass of silicone pellets filled.
Hold on.
Behind the silicone. Nasibo Jones and the suggested her when a former biologist in their local college offers his fresh master's students a glass of silicone pellets filled with distilled water on an alternate Saturday night by using an odorless, colorless, and tasteless agent or drug called SPC-1,3-dibapyridine, which is responsible for triggering their stomach ulcers, and they got trapped behind their dormitory room floor where they hold an anal probe after every nostril as the heart beats for hours, writing an essay by typing some letters using their shaky and weakened right forearms with each P and drive filled with 128 GB. They did not show an intent Shock like others did behind the silicon on Saturday night, but only held it there with the utmost annoyance on the morning, releasing 19 different emotions on those pen drives instead, similar to those one can't forget. Robotic analog body. An AMP is a technology that leverages wearable technologies to convert a user's vital metrics such as skin conductivity, electric conductivity into touchpads, actuated pressure pads through a flexible antenna layer to mimic human touch, resulting in an optimized motion by responding to touches perceived by humans. Richie refers to how it can be said that most real-time tactics and tactics has their fair share of surprises up its sleeve on one part or the other of gameplay by managing certain upgrades during the development. Killshot, a subject who is researched with respect to certain aims often regarded as a total topic by various media with little interest by others due to its reputation or source. It is based on an artificial intelligence agent and behavioral decision support system to hunt down particular individuals who have caused considerable damage or is involved with those who do so and finally turning them into a fish dinner if desired. Kindle Yank, an e-reader with an electronic paper display and an electronic reader OS from Amazon, such as Kindle for mobile phones and tablets running Linux or other Unix-like operating systems like Apple iPad. Misfire refers to a Finscar rifle used in such a manner in gameplay where a user decides to sacrifice one's ammo because they have no attachment slots. Attachments, or as a matter of fact, they're currently short on attachment slots and run out of ammo or magazines, reducing their target kill progression and opting to a smaller kill chance. Loveline. Loveline was a UK psychotherapy internet show that ran for 553 episodes and was first aired in 1985 on Channel 4 in the United Kingdom, in Australia in 1997 on SBS, and on 60 Minutes in the United States on PBS in the autumn of 1992. Thundergun. Player skilled action to negate one's teammates' abilities, choosing a Zen approach to this action to choose which weapon that negates their teammates' abilities. Chekiwai, an unfortunate intrusion within a player's system via an artificial intelligence agent or a genuine robotic companion for humans. TBBPL, triggered by their reliance on other tools on their immediate device. Chekiwai is an agent-based intrusion agent or an actual robot companion that initiates an unsolvable bot map triggered by using Checkmate bot in the wrong environment besides PvP or a non-beta combat server and potentially breaking other people's things. When someone displays exceptional thoughtfulness toward another person they barely know, a gesture of self-sacrifice. Hobarth's constant. When someone displays exceptional thoughtfulness toward another person they barely know, a gesture of self-sacrifice. It's when they ask after the comfort of a total stranger in a crisis just because. The general quality of acting for the highest good both for them and in general all the time. When it's very unselfish to even strangers. The definition was coined by Cicero, who wrote about a Greek philosopher, Hobart, who was so consistently doing good for no gain. Read. Expecting no thanks that Aristotle went and invented. Special name for such people. Naturalism. In the scientific view usually involving physicalism, that consciousness or awareness cannot be explained by means of natural phenomena, particularly the neurological phenomena underlying ordinary conscious experience. Have a medium. A work by John Kennedy, There's at a sudden surge of popularity of the week of March 7, 2018 to that of December 5, 2017 on the basis that they got hit with the new backups because of the owner's recklessness. It was originally posted by Taco Surgeon in March 2016, which has been terminated 2 months later due to a bot nuke from their supporters. It has become known for a complete work of a poet when his editor helped him. The whole original is quite picturesque, since it is essentially just an in-universe copy of the diary entries of its author's adventure and emotions only shown from his perspective, and thus ends with him dying in an early snowstorm while climbing a mountain in Siberia. It has also been stated in story as him committing suicide in said expedition. It also ends with a return of the old work, since it has become such a tradition, although some say that it has become more interesting the second time around, as it becomes quite eerie and unfit to tell before ending, telling us of the dark place between this reality and the void. One could even say between two different universes. Grover House is a chat room centered around the player creating the various property simulators, fulfillments, or storage containers, including an amicable diner filled with new acquaintances in a parallel city, those which includes Grover, a wanted rumor of a fictional police officer or a feisty weathercaster, to make them fit within their apartment no bigger than a compact on one end or another, as one becomes familiar with their various habits, behavior modeling, stipulating one's required actions based on these simulations for certain supplies they must grab, like fuel for a washing machine in one case, or what are actually substitutes like milk, which contains caffeine, for them to experience their orgasm to please the lecherous clients or someone.
Let's see. Go a little further there.
Clever Tricks is the nickname given by some users towards the act of making use of unsolved math problems, since they would often yield unorthodox and stupid solutions, yet provide answers or correct answers instead, for it being just as legit and viable compared to a right solution. Gogi 2000 refers to the left boot on the ground of those who attempted to hard shut their machines but find a gouged hole on said boot, yet somehow surprisingly all its electronics and FDD survived or work still at any particular customer's discretion, going through an exceptional amount of electrical resistance when dealing with an isolated or even normal person. Guru Keto. Google Keto is a token management and training system created by Google, where token can be converted to beta fee units as per their chosen activation strategy for certain experiments, live trials, or other competitions, as long as a specified number of badads are amassed at least through a day for each campaign. Linear artificial intelligence / incorrect. Refers to 20th century technology in computer and video game consoles. Linear, because it's associated with artificial intelligence, i.e., something that imitates a human-like ability rather than exhibiting some capability due to randomness, i.e., artificial generative adversarial networks, AI, because its true self has still yet to be invented, and the notion of the topic being referred as an intelligence. Company / club / etc. refers to what human society associates as social organizations for individual or group gatherings and activities for several reasons, i.e., clubbing or hiking is not usually about forming an agreement that only about a dozen people on this world's social structure actually got what it takes to handle without human assistance. Recruitment for these club types are mostly online. Elm Eyes is an experimental unreleased client created by Unigraphy that is an alternative for emulated Asana. Unigraphy's Linux app, allowing an end user to import images to share amongst users or keep. Helm Eins was born out of its project title. It is also an Etsy shop.
Okay, that's it for now.